Go live now. I'll share my screen. I hope all of you are able to see it right. So we will first see what will be the agenda for today. So we will read from pages 17 to 23 today, and as usual, before starting the session, I will dedicate this session to the founder Acharya of ISKCON, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Whatever I speak, I'll merely repeat what I have listened in the lectures, what I've heard in the lectures of Srila Prabhupada. I'll merely repeat what I have read in the books of Srila Prabhupada. And I'll merely repeat what I have learned from my Siksha Gurus and the Guru Parampara of ISKCON. So the agenda would be Mangala Charan. We would invoke auspiciousness by chanting some pranam mantras initially. Then we will read the pages 17 to 23. And finally, question and answer session. So I would request all of you that as we progress, like if you all have any questions, please note them down separately. And towards the end of the session, I will dedicate 15 to 20 minutes exclusively for question and answers. And then we will try to find answers to these following questions today. Okay. And good part is that we are nearing the end of the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. One more session, I think I would need to finish it off. And then from next to next session onwards, we will, indulge into actual Bhagavad Gita, the shloka by shloka discussion, basically. Right? So that's going to be a really nice thing. Okay. So some of the questions, like we'll try to answer, or we'll try to find the answers to some of the questions which have been, given in the introduction part of the Bhagavad Gita. Right. So first, Sanatan Dharma we saw in the last session. What do we mean by Sanatan Dharma? How faith and dharma are two different things, but are often, confused and are often used interchangeably by people in general. Okay, and we'll learn a little more about that. And then, where is Krishna's abode? Right, this is going to be an interesting session. Okay, so where is Krishna's abode? What are the characteristics of his abode? What are the characteristics of the inhabitants of Krishna Loka? And how to attain Krishna's abode. Okay, the top secret of the Bhagavad Gita that has been revealed in the introduction itself by none other than His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Srila Prabhupada. Okay, so we will just see how to do that, and is it simple or is it a difficult process? How to go about it. Okay, so we'll try to finish off today's session by these questions, by trying to answer these questions. So, as usual, before starting, I will invoke some pranam mantras. I'll chant some pranam mantras. Those who know that, please repeat after me by remaining on mute. And those who don't know, please try to listen very attentively because listening is also very, very purifying. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijan Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagan Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्ते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिय वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्विषे नमः नमः ओं विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। ओम करोति वाचालं पंगुं लंघयते गिरि यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानंद माधवं श्री चैतन्य ईश्वरं हरि ओम। So, Vasavi Mataji, will you be also able to read today if I increase the font?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we have Ishita Mataji and Vasavi Mataji. Anyone else who would like to read? Sindhu Mataji, Rupali Mataji, Vedant Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda Pranamo ke Prabhuji will read.
Okay, thank you so much, Prabhu. Hari Hari. All right, so we'll go in alphabetical order. Let me increase the font for your convenience. So we'll read from here. Okay. Ishita Mataji, if you are able to read, then please you can start from here. So one thing before you start, Mataji. So today's session, explanation part will be on the lesser side because all the things that we are going to learn today are pretty straightforward and very direct. Okay, there is nothing much to explain. But yes, as and when need comes up, like if I feel that okay, this part should be explained, I will pitch in and I will try to give some explanations. My humble request to all of you that please note down your questions and we will take the questions towards the end of the session. Yes, Mataji, you can proceed.
Sure. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the Swarupa Swarupa of every living being, the Lord replied that Swarup, or the constitutional position of the living being, is the rendering of the service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we analyze this statement of Lord Chaitanya's, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. A living being serves other living beings in various capacities. By doing so, the living entity enjoys life. The lower animals serve human beings as servants serve their master. A serves B, B serves C, and C serves D master, and so on. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son, the wife serves the husband serves the wife, and so on. If we go on searching in the spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician, I lost the line. Okay, I got it. The politician presents in manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity of service. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to the society. The shopkeeper serves the customer, and the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family, and the family serves the state in terms of eternal capacity of the eternal living being. In this way, we can see that no living being is exempt from rendering service to other living beings. And therefore, we can safely conclude that service is a constant companion of the living being, and rendering of service is the eternal religion of the living being.
Please continue,
Yet
Mata.
man, yet man professes, yet man professes to belong to a particular type of faith, which with reference to a particular time and circumstance, and thus claims to be Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or adherent to any other sect. Such designations are non-Sanatan Dharma. A Hindu may change his faith to become a Muslim, or a Muslim may change his faith to become a Hindu, or a Christian may change his faith, and so on. But in all circumstances, the change in religious faith does not affect the internal occupation of rendering service to others. The Hindu, Muslim, or Christian in all circumstance is the servant of someone. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one's Sanatan Dharma. The rendering of service is Sanatan Dharma.
That should be
Factually,
nice. Yeah, no, that should be important. Yeah.
okay.
So very nicely, just see how simply and in such an easy language Srila Prabhupada has just put forward, the difference between faith and the Sanatan Dharma, right? From the first session itself, like we have been seeing that rendering service to other living entities is the inherent nature of all the humans, or why all humans, all living entities, right? All the living entities are in some way or the other rendering service to someone. Okay. So, and we have also seen, right, just in the previous paragraphs that, mother is serving the son, wife is serving the husband, husband is serving the wife, and so on. And, it goes on in different aspects as well. The politician is trying to serve the people in general, and then people, when their turn comes, they cast their valuable votes to them. So in this way, no one can claim that they are completely exempt from this service attitude. Okay, they are not serving anyone. If someone even claims that, still they are serving the laws of material nature. Okay, we are bound by the laws of material nature. We will grow old with time. Okay, we will have to quit our body, at a certain stage. So no one is actually free from all these things. So service is there, inherent, and we have seen lot of times that people, if they don't get anyone to serve, they get a cat or a dog as a pet, and then they start serving them. So, so this service attitude is eternal in the living being. It's not the faith, basically, what we say Islam or Christianity or Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism. There are so many of them. The reason behind this is that all these things, the faith basically, it actually develops over a period of time according to the time, place, and circumstances of where the individual is staying. So, just a second. Okay. So, according to time, place, and circumstances of a person, basically where they are, right? And it is nothing but, like calling the Supreme Personality with a specific name, or, following certain customs and rules and regulations as far as spirituality is concerned, going to a specific place of worship. So these things basically encompass the faith. But this is not the Sanatan Dharma. As what Srila Prabhupada is saying, that this faith may change. Okay, Hindu may get converted to some other faith, a Muslim may get converted to some other faith, but the rendering of service is something which is eternal to each and every spirit soul, and that is our Sanatan Dharma, right? So, and the topmost Sanatan Dharma, or the ultimate Sanatan Dharma of every living entity, is what Srimad Bhagavatam tells us. तवै पुंसाम परो धर्मो यतो भक्तिर अधोक्षजे अहेतुके अप्रतिहता यात्मासु प्रसीदति. This we saw in the last session of itself, right? That the तवै पुंसाम परो धर्मो, the param dharma, right, of all the living entities, तवै पुंसाम, right, all the living entities is yato bhaktir adhokshaje. That means rendering devotional service or doing bhakti of Adhokshaja or Lord Vishnu. So this is the eternal, what to say, is the actual Sanatan Dharma of every living entity, to render devotional service to the Supreme Personality. It doesn't matter what name you call him. Call him Vishnu, you call him Krishna, you call him Allah, you call him Christ, you call him whatever. Okay, but this is your eternal Sanatan Dharma, that we have to render devotional service to that Supreme Personality. Okay? This is the Sanatan Dharma. And how is this particular devotional service rendered? It should be ahetuki apratihata. Ahetuki means without any motivation for material gains. Okay, it should be unmotivated. And second, apratihata. That means it should be continuous. Okay? Whatever happens in our life, my devotional service will not stop. If something good is going on in my life, then also I'll be doing my devotional service. If something bad is going on in our life which is not to our liking, still our devotional service will continue. That is what known as the pure devotional service or the eternal Sanatana Dharma of the spirit soul. Okay. So moving on. Yes. Who can go next? I think Vasavi Mataji can go. Yeah, Vasavi Mataji, if you can read from here, factually.
Yes, Prabhuji. Factually, we are not related to the Supreme Lord in service. The Supreme Lord is the supreme enjoyer, and we living entities are his servitors. We are created from his enjoyment, and if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. In Bhagavad Gita, worship of different demigods or rendering service to them is not approved. It is stated in the 7th chapter, 20th verse. Kamai tar
Okay, I can help Mataji here. Kamestairhritaggyana prapadyante anya devata tam niyamam asthaya prakritya nishtaya swaya.
Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desire render unto demigod and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own nature. Here it is plainly said that those who are directed by lust worship the demigods and not the Supreme Lord Krishna. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any secretary name. Krishna means the highest pleasure, and it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is the reservoir of all storehouse of all pleasure. We are all hankering after pleasure. Ananda Mayo Dasat Vedanta Sutra 1.12. The living entity, like the Lord, are full of consciousness and they are after happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entity associate with the Lord, cooperate with him, and take part in his association, then they also become happy. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show his pastime in Vrindavan, which are all full of happiness. When Lord Sri Krishna was in Vrindavan, his activities with his cowherds, boyfriends, with his damsels friends, with the other inhabitants of Vrindavana, and with the cows were all full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavana knew nothing but Krishna. But Lord Krishna even discouraged his father, Nanda Maharaj, from worshipping the demigod Indra because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any demigod. They need only worship the Supreme Lord because their ultimate goal is to return to the abode. The abode of Lord Krishna
Yeah,
is
that should be fine, Mataji. Thank you so much. Okay. So there are a few couple of important points which I would like to stress, and I think very few people know about these things. So, I'll be happy to explain, right? So, first of all, what Srila Prabhupada says here is that in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna actually discourages the worship of the demigods. Okay, so there is only one personality who is supposed to be worshipped, and that is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or Krishna. Okay. All these demigods are basically, just like living entities like us. It's just that because of the higher pious credits that they have compared to us, they are residing in some higher planetary systems, and they have taken up some, higher roles, basically the roles of controllers or the Ishwaras, right? So this is how, this whole setup is of the material world is, right? And what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, that most of the people are, materialistic and who are materially inclined, or who desire basically some material gains. They actually offer, they actually try to worship different devis and devtas, okay, which is not right. Because even if we need something material, we should actually approach Krishna, who is our eternal Father, right? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Yonishu Kanteya Aham Bij Pradapita. That means of all the living entities, I am the seed giving father. Right? So he is our eternal father. He has confirmed that. So if we are in the need of something, then approach the father directly, right? Why to go with some other, some other path and asking maybe favors from some other demigods. Okay. So it is simply just try to understand the situation like this, that, for example, consider that your father is the CEO of a company, he's the owner of a company, right? And you need some money, basically. Right? So what happens? Like if you need some money, ideally, what should you do? You should simply straight away approach your father, tell him that, okay, what is the need? Like, why do you need this money? And if the reason is quite genuine one, he will grant you that money, okay, that sum of money. But instead of that, what we are trying to do, we are trying to approach some, say, general managers or managers of my father, and then we are trying to get some money. So how horrible is that, right? I mean, it's not good at all, isn't it? So it's the same thing. And second most important point to note here is that, which very few people know, is that the demigods are also bound by the laws of material nature. Okay. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Abrahma bhuvana loka punaravartino Arjuna Mamupetyatu Kaunteya Punarjanmana Vidyate. That means right from the lowest planetary system to the topmost planetary system, that is the abode of Brahma, which is known as Satyaloka, right? All these places are places of miseries. Okay, he calls all these places as places of miseries where repeated birth and death take place. Okay, so even Lord Brahma is not exempt of this cycle of birth and death. He is also under the control of the laws of material nature. Okay, so because these demigods are also under the control of laws of material nature, they, when someone worships them, they are bound to give some benedictions. Okay, like maybe out of, say, influence of some of the three gunas, right? The sattva-gun, rajogun, and tamogun, right? Out of the influence of that, or maybe due to some compulsion, they are forced to give some benedictions. That is the reason why people like Hiranyakashipu and Ravan, they got so many benedictions from Lord Brahma. Another classical example is Maharani Kunti. Right before getting married, she was actually given a mantra by a very powerful sage. I don't remember the name of the sage right now, but she was given the a mantra to summon the sun god, or the Surya Dev. Okay, so when she got the mantra, he thought that, okay, चलो try करके देखते हैं काम करता भी है या नहीं, like that. So she uttered that mantra in exact way which the rishi had asked her to do, basically. Okay, so what happened? That mantra worked, obviously, and the Suryadev, he actually was standing in front of her, and he asked that, okay, why did you call me? So Maharani Kunti told him that, okay, I was just trying to see that whether this mantra works or not. There was no intent to, specific reason basically to call you here. So Suryadev said that, okay, it doesn't work like that, my dear lady. So you need to ask for some benediction. Otherwise, I'll give you some benediction. I am forced to do that. Okay, so you see, he is also, acting according to the laws of material nature. He's forced to give some benedictions. Okay. So then he just gave a benediction that she is going to have a very powerful, son who will be a very nice archer, and he was born with a divine armor, kavach, and a divine set of earrings and kundal, right? And he was none other than Karna. And the Suryadev, he said that as long as this kavach and kundal is going to be on his body, no celestial weapon can harm him. Okay, and we all know what happened after that, right? She put Karna because she was unmarried and she was already having a child. So Kunti became very afraid, and then she took Karna, put him in a wooden box, and set that wooden box afloat in the river. And then finally, Karna was found by one of the chariot drivers, and he grew up over there. Right? We know that story. Okay, so this is how it works. The demigods are also basically under the laws of material nature, and they're bound to give certain benedictions. Okay, so just try to understand it in this way that these demigods are like shopkeepers. I have heard this from one of my Siksha gurus, basically, that they are like shopkeepers. So if, say, a kid, maybe 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid goes to the shop and asks for a packet of cigarette, what will the shopkeeper do? He will simply take the money and give that cigarette. He is least bothered that whether why this kid is asking for cigarette. Cigarette smoking is injurious to health, and he or she is such a young kid, right? So I should not be giving what is right and what is wrong. This kind of discrimination is not there in the shopkeepers, basically, in most of the cases. Okay, but Krishna, as he is our eternal Father, he knows exactly what is right and what is wrong for us, what is good and what is bad for us. Okay, so he gives us only what we deserve, okay, and only what we need. Krishna will always give you what you need. Okay, he may not give you what you want. There is difference between what you want and what you need. Okay, so just rest assured that if you are surrendered to Krishna, if you are 100% dependent on Krishna, Krishna will never deprive you from the basic necessities. Okay, the things that you need. But yes, it may happen that he may not give you what you want. For example, if I want a Ferrari, I mean, lot of things are taken into consideration after that. Okay, whether I am actually eligible to get a Ferrari or not, from the karmic, reaction wise. Okay, it's a complex process. But need wise, definitely Krishna will take care. Yoga kshemam vahamyam. This is what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. For my pure devotees, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. Okay, this is the promise which Krishna gives us. So these are the two things which I just wanted to explain here. And then now we can move forward. Next, who is Vedant Prabhu, right? Prabhu, if you can read.
Yes, Prabhuji. The abode of Lord Sri Krishna is described in the Bhagavad Gita, 15 chapter, 6th verse. Na tad bhasayate suryo, na
Shashanko,
sasanko, na
Pavaka,
pavaka yad gatva na
Nivartante,
nivartante tad dhama paramam
Paramam Mama.
mama.
Hmm.
The supreme abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by the fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. This verse gives a description of that eternal sky. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky, and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, and so on. But in this verse, the Lord states that in the eternal sky there is no need. In the eternal sky there is no need for the sun, nor for the moon, nor electricity or fire, or of any kinds, because the spiritual sky is already illuminated by the Brahma Jyoti. The rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. We are trying with difficulty to reach other planets, but it is not difficult to understand the abode of Supreme Lord. This abode is referred to as Goloka. In the Brahma Samhita, it is beautifully described. Goloka eva nivaste akhil atma bhuta. The Lord resides eternally in his abode Goloka, yet he can approach from this world, and the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. When he manifests this form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is, as Samsundar. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him because he comes as one of us, and plays with us as human being. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord as one of us. It is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form because before us, and displays his pastime, which are replicas of those pastimes found in his abode. In the effulgent
Yeah, please
yes,
go ahead,
Prabhuji.
Prabhu. Yeah,
Yes,
still here.
Prabhuji.
Yeah.
In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahma Jyoti emanates from the supreme abode Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float f- one second, float in those rays. The Lord says, na tad bhasiyate suryo na sasanko na pavakaha yat gatva na nivirtante tad dhama paramamam mama. One who can approach that spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. In the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same condition of life, namely, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. No planet in the material universe is free from these four principles of material existence.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare
My
Krishna.
pleasure, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
So clearly, lot what Prabhupada is saying here is that as we saw earlier that no planet, even the highest planet Brahmaloka, is not devoid of these four material conditions of birth, death, disease, and old age. Right? Even Lord Brahma has to die after some time, okay? And some more light is thrown about the Krishna's abode. So one of the questions that we saw in the agenda was that the abode of Krishna. I would like to know more about the abode of Krishna. Where does Krishna live? Okay, so he lives in a planet called as Golok Vrindavan. Okay, and this planet is not an ordinary material planet situated in the material sky or this interstellar space that we see here, right? It is in the spiritual sky. And what is the description that Krishna himself gives about this his own abode? That he says that na tad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatva na nivartante tad dhama paramam mama. That means that supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun, moon, or by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. So this is the promise which Krishna is giving, that once you reach Krishna's abode, or maybe any other planet, which is in the spiritual sky, that spirit soul is not obliged to come back to this material world. Of course, like if you so desire, you can definitely come back here, right? But once you reach it, there is no obligation. Basically, you can remain there till eternity, serving Krishna very happily. Either to Krishna directly or any one of his 400 Narayana forms, which are present in so many Vaikuntha planets which are there. So this is what Krishna says, and Prabhupada says that it's very different from what our conception of material sky is. Generally, we associate with sun, moon, stars, some other heavenly objects, basically. But he says that his sky doesn't need any illumination. Why? Because that sky is illuminated by the effulgence of Krishna, bodily effulgence of Krishna, the effulgence which comes out of Krishna's body, right? So that rays of light are actually emanating from the Golok Vrindavan because Krishna is there, and it is enlightening the entire spiritual sky, all the planets which are present in that Brahma Jyoti, right? And it is said that if a Brahma Jyoti, even a small ray of Brahma Jyoti touches your body, okay, you are completely purified. You are just purified of all sinful reactions of your entire existence. Since time immemorial, we have been transmigrating from one body to another, and accumulating some punya karmas, some pap karmas. But with a touch of even a slightest amount of Brahma Jyoti, one is completely purified. All the karmas are removed, and that spirit soul is entitled to go back home, back to Krishna. Okay? And then why does Krishna come here in this material world? See, the point of meditation for Krishna, as far as the living entities who are in this material world are concerned, for them, Krishna has only one single point of meditation, that what can I do for this living entity so that he or she can come back to me? Okay. He doesn't want anything else. And actually, he doesn't need to do that also because he's Atmaram, right? He is self-satisfied. There are hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis who are serving him, in Golok Vrindavan. But just look at the kindness or the compassion of Krishna, that he's so compassionate that he wants all the fallen conditioned souls to be back again, residing with him. Okay. So his only point of meditation is, what can I do for this particular living entity so that he or she can come back to me? And in order to encourage all of us, in order to tell us that, okay, the only way to come back is by rendering pure devotional service unto him. And then what is it that we are going to gain after that? He descends down, and he performs his pastimes here. The same similar pastimes which he performed in the Dwapara Yuga in Vrindavan, basically, right? So it was, those pastimes are very sweet and very happy pastimes, basically, right? And he's saying that, okay, boss, this is just the trailer. Picture abhi baki hai, right? You have to come to my abode and then you can enjoy eternally there. So I'm just showing you a small trailer over here. This is what we do in Vrindavan. The only job description in Golok Vrindavan is that Krishna will be performing his pastimes. We only have to assist him. Okay. There is no tension of getting a job, finishing your studies, all the nonsense that we are doing here in this material world. It's just not there. Okay, just Krishna will be performing his pastimes along with Srimati Radharani and all the other gopis of Vrindavan, and we can choose any role, right? I mean, that is known as the Swarupa, basically. What is our eternal position in Golok Vrindavan, right? Every living entity has a unique relationship with Krishna. Okay, so since we are here in this material world, that particular position is still vacant. And in Golok Vrindavan, and Krishna is waiting that when will this spirit soul come back again and take his or her rightful position in the Golok Vrindavan, right? So Krishna is waiting for us from time to time. He comes down here in this material world. He performs certain pastimes just to encourage us and just to show us a glimpse of the kind of happiness and bliss we are going to experience once we attain to his abode, right? And later on, we'll see how we can attain the abode of Sri Krishna. Okay. So with that, we will move on. Maybe I can read the next two paragraphs. The living entities are traveling from one planet to another, but it's not that we can go to any planet we like merely by mechanical arrangement. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. Okay. This is also mentioned, Yanti Dev Vrata Devan, Pitri Yanti, Pitri Vrata. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if we want interplanetary travel. Gita instructs, Yanti Dev Vrata Deva, the moon, the sun, and higher planets are called Svargloka. There are three different statuses of planets: higher planetary systems, middle planetary systems, and the lower planetary system. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad Gita informs us how to travel to higher planetary systems or the Devaloka with very simple formula. Yanti Devvrata Deva. One need only to worship a particular demigod of that planet, and in that way they can go to the moon, sun, or any other higher planetary systems. So this is the Vedic injunction. This is the Vedic process which has been given, that if we want to attain to any higher planetary system, we do not need any mechanical arrangement for that. We don't need to build expensive aircrafts, and all the research work is going on. Still, we have been not been able to go beyond our solar system. Okay, but this is a simple process which Bhagavad Gita tells us, right? That how to go. Yanti Devvrata Devan, Pitri Yanti Pitri Vrata, Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, Yanti Madhyajinobhimam. Right? So Krishna says that those who worship the demigods are born amongst the demigods, Yanti Devvrata Devan. Pitri Yanti Pitri Vrata, those who worship the Pitras or the forefathers, they go to the another planetary system which is known as the Pitri Loka. Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, those who worship ghosts and spirits, they are born among them, those living entities. And Yanti Madhyajinopima, and those who worship me reside with me. Okay, Krishna doesn't use the term they are born in Golok Vrindavan, right? Because Golok Vrindavan is beyond birth and death. They stay with me or they reside with me. This is the simple formula which has been given. So if someone wants to go to the Surya Loka, they can simply worship the sun god, and after quitting the body, they will go there. If someone wants to go to the Chandra Loka, they can worship the moon demigod, and after quitting the body, they can go there. But the problem is that all these, the Swarg Lokas and all the other planetary systems which are there in the material world, as we have seen earlier, they all are bound by the laws of material nature. That means repeated life and death takes place in these planetary systems. So nowhere we will find eternal life and eternal happiness and eternal joy. The only place which we can find these things in eternity is in the Golok Vrindavan or any other Vaikuntha planet, in the spiritual sky, basically. Yet Bhagavad Gita does not advise us to go to any of these planets in the material world, because even if we go to Brahmaloka, the highest planet, through some sort of mechanical contrivance, one may be traveling for 40,000 years and we will still find the material inconveniences of birth, death, disease, and old age. Okay, but one who wants to approach the supreme planet Krishna Loka or any other planet within the spiritual sky will not meet with these material inconveniences. Okay, that means we will simply transcend all the material inconveniences which are there. Okay, amongst all of the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Golok Vrindavan, the original planet in the abode of original personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. All of this information is given in the Bhagavad Gita, and we are given through its instruction information how to leave the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. Okay, so we'll see. Ishita Mataji, if you can start reading the next paragraphs, maybe.
Yeah, sure. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the real picture of material world is given. It is said here.
I will
Would you
help,
please
Mataji.
help?
I'll help. Uddharvamulam adhashakham ashwatham prahuravyayam chantamsi yasya prarani yasya tam veda savedvit.
Thank you. Here, the material world is described as a tree whose roots are upward and the branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of the river or a reservoir of water, he can see that tree reflected in the water are upside down. The branches go up downward and the roots upward. Similarly, the material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world go down. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow, there is no reality or substantiality. But from the shadow, we can understand that there are substance and reality. In the desert, there is no water, but the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. In the material world, there is,
Yeah.
in the material world, there is no water, there is no happiness. The real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world.
Okay, so this should be fine, Mataji. I think. Yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so one very important thing that we have to consider here. So what Bhagavad Gita says, Udharo Moolam Adha Shakam, means that it's describing this material world like as a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. Okay, upside down. Just imagine that there's a tree on the bank of a river. Okay, so the reflection which is being cast on the surface of the water which is there in the river, that is upside down, of the reflection of the tree, basically, right? So when we say perverted reflection, we mean to say that whatever is considered as a very good thing or the topmost activity in this material world, okay, that is considered to be most abominable in the spiritual world, okay, and what is considered as most abominable is the very nice activity in the spiritual world. Okay, for example, I'll try to tell you that here in the spiritual world, what are we doing? We all are trying to enjoy. Okay, we all are trying to lord over this material nature. We want to be the center of attraction for everyone. We want everyone to serve us, and we want to just rule. This the power tussle is actually going on continuously within this material world, right? So this is a very abominable thing in the spiritual world. Okay, in spiritual world there is absolute humility and the mode of surrender, okay, or a mode of submission. Okay, very submissive people are there. In uh, in the material world these days, especially, like if you are very outspoken and even if you talk rudely, people say, "Oh, this man has a very nice managerial skills." Okay, right? But that is considered very abominable in the spiritual world. People are very soft spoken and they are very polite and gentle and humble. Okay, always glorifying each other rather than self glorification. So these are the some subtle differences. Okay, and spiritual world is very much real. For not even a single second, one should have an iota of doubt in their minds that all these things are made up, or all these things are what we use the term mythology, right? Mythology means it's a myth. So this is a very wrong term that we are using, for our scriptures. It is completely real. Why? Because the reflection will come in the water, or a shadow will be cast in the presence of an object, right? Which is very, very real. If the object is not there, then we cannot have the reflection of that object. If the object is not there, then we cannot have the shadow of that object. Okay. So when we are having this perverted reflection, that means something real is there, and which is straight. It's not perverted, right? And that is where we are targeting to go. At ISKCON, we generally worship the Yugal Kishore, Srimati Radharani along with Sri Krishna, right? So that we attain to that supreme abode, the Golok Vrindavan, right? ISKCON devotees generally are not even interested in going to any other Vaikuntha Loka, right? Actually, if you see, the real devotee will not be interested in going anywhere, right? Even if they are being offered to go to spiritual world, they will simply reject, saying that if there is no chance for me serving Krishna over there, then I don't want it. I am happy serving him here itself, right? That is the mood of a true devotee, right? But Krishna generally is out of the kind-heartedness and out of ecstasy, basically. He just brings the devotees back home, back to him. Okay, so this is what the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. So we will go. Is there anyone else who would like to read? I see more people have joined in. I can see Lalita Mataji, Bhashwati Mataji, Kavya Mataji. Any one of you would like to read?
Sure, Prabhuji, I'll read. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I lost the track because I was listening. Can you just suggest from where I need to start?
Yeah, I'll just highlight that one.
Okay. All right. The Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world in the following manner.
Nirmana Moha
Nirmana Moha Jitta Sangodosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinibritta Kama Dhavan Ved Dhavan Ved Vimukta Sukha Dukha Samajner Gachante Amudha Padam Abhayam Tat. The Padam Abhayam or eternal kingdom can be reached by one who is Nirmana Moha. What does this mean? We are after designations. Someone wants to become Sir, someone wants to become Lord, someone wants to become the president or a rich man or a king or something else. As long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to the body. Because designations belong to the body, but we are not these bodies. And realizing this is the first stage in spiritual realization. We are associated with the three modes of material nature, but we must become detached through devotional service to the Lord. If we are not attached to devotional service to the Lord, then we cannot become detached from the modes of material nature. Designations and attachments are due to our lust and desire. Our wanting to lord it over the material nature. As long as we do not give up this propensity of lording it over material nature, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme. The Sanatana Dhamma, that eternal kingdom which is never destroyed, can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments, who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. One so situated can easily approach that supreme abode.
So yes, very nice this thing over here, that we need to get rid of the material designations. Okay, in the Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, there is one very nice shloka: Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesa sevanam bhakti ruchyate. That means that the best service that which one spirit soul can offer is to render service to the rishikesh, or the controller of the senses. Engaging our senses in the service of the controller of the senses. Okay? And that is the best kind of devotional service. And once a spirit soul starts performing that kind of devotional service, they become purified, and then they are sarvopadhi vinirmuktam. They are, like completely free of all the material designations. As Prabhupada says here, that someone wants to become sir, someone wants to become lord. We want respect from people around us, right? Especially if people are showing some extra respect, we are very happy from within. No matter how much we try to control that happiness, a tinge of it actually reflects on our faces, right? So this is the material nature. This is the, what to say, the conditioning of the spirit souls in this material nature. Okay, that we are longing for this material designations. Okay, but once we start rendering devotional service, since our eternal constitutional position is kind of revealed to us, so after that people are completely detached from these material designations. Okay, so there are two things. One is the detachment, complete detachment, which is known as vairagya, and then there is voluntarily giving up of the some material activities or some sense objects like that. So that is known as tyag. Okay, so difference between tyag and vairagya is that in case of tyag, your attachment towards that sense object or that material activity will be there. Okay, but since you are now well versed in the shastric injunctions, you know that it is not right for you, you know that it's going to cause an hindrance in your progress in spirituality, it will not help you to attain the supreme abode of Lord Sri Krishna, then what happens is that you deliberately try to stay away from those things. Okay, this is known as tyag. Whereas vairagya means that in presence of all the sense objects around you, you will still not be attached or attracted to any one of them. That stage is very high stage of devotional service. That you are simply interested in Srimati Radharani and Krishna. Okay, that's it. I mean, if they are not there, then nothing is there. That kind of thing. So after that, any other material thing, any other material object, any other material place, person, it doesn't matter to us. So that is known as vairagya. Okay. And another thing which Srila Prabhupada gave us in ISKCON was is known as the Yukta Vairagya. Yukta Vairagya means that I'm not attached to anything, but if something is there, I will use it in service of Krishna. Okay. For example, the dictaphone. Okay, at that time when Srila Prabhupada was there, right, the technology was not as advanced as it is right now. Okay, right now we are having this nice Zoom session where we can see each other, we can talk to each other like this. Okay, but at that time it was not there. Dictaphone was something where you can record your lectures, or maybe what Prabhupada did was that he used to give the purport, and that purport was recorded, and then later on it was printed in the books, right? So that was a like Kali Yuga technology, right? Dictaphone. But Prabhupada did not reject it. Okay, he said, okay, if it's there, fine. I'm not very attached to it personally, but if it is there, I'll use it in the service of Krishna. Okay, so that is known as Yukta Vairagya. That everything around you, you can simply use it in the service of Krishna without being attached to them. Okay? So this is these are some of the explanations here in this one. Maybe next, who can go? Anyone else? Or else I'll ask Vasavi Mataji to continue. Vasavi Mataji, you can continue. Just a second. Let me. Even I am having difficulties in
I
English.
start from? Where should I start from, Prabhuji?
Here.
Elsewhere in the Gita, it is stated, avyakto kasara itya uktas tam duha pramama
I'll help Mataji. Avyakto akshara ityo tasmahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. Yes.
Avyakta means unmanifested. Not even all of the material world is manifested before us. Our senses are so imperfect that we cannot even see all of the stars within this material universe. In the Vedic literature, we can receive much information about all the planets and we can believe it or not believe it. All of the important planets are described in the Vedic literature, especially Srimad Bhagavatam, and the spiritual world, which is beyond this material sky, is described as avyakta, unmanifested. One should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom, for when one attains that kingdom, he does not have to return to this material world. Next,
That should be fine.
one may
That's okay. Thank you so much, Mataji. Because this is the last section. Now we will come to know. So, what here Krishna says that again, like this avyakta or the unmanifest form, like that spiritual sky is not manifested in front of us. Why? Because with this material body, we cannot approach that material sky, right? In order to go to the spiritual sky, we will have to take a spiritual form. Okay, we'll have to give up this body. So this is what Prabhupada is saying, that we should desire and hanker after that supreme kingdom, rather than all the small material things and activities we are crazy for these days, right? And because once you attain there, you will not come back and you will be eternally happy. Okay. So now the question arises that we have seen where does Krishna reside? What are the characteristics of, the abode of Sri Krishna? Now we'll see what are the characteristics of the people of, Golok Vrindavan, right? One, as I said, that since material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world, means that uh, we have seen that, okay, the service attitude is the foremost in the spiritual world, right? People are polite, people are gentle, and the only object of attraction in the spiritual world is Krishna. People are not attached to anything or anyone else other than Krishna. Okay. Very simple example, what we have seen in this introduction itself, that when Krishna told Nand Maharaj to stop worshipping Indra, Krishna was only 7 years old at that time. Just think that the entire Gokul, entire Vrindavan actually, believed what Krishna was saying, and they just gave up worshipping of, Indra. Now we are talking about Dwapar Yuga. In Dwapar Yuga, the Yuga Dharma was a deity worship at that time, right? And giving up a Yuga Dharma is a very, very big deal. It used to be a very, very big deal. The Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, right? But that is a different matter that people are reluctant in, chanting even one round. And we will not discuss that. We will not take a detour from there. But in Dwapar Yuga, it used to be a very big deal. In Dwapar Yuga, the Yuga Dharma was deity worship, and it was a very, very big deal, right? But people just they simply ignore their, uh, you know, uh, their Yuga Dharma, and they simply believe what Krishna said, right? So that is the consciousness of people who are staying in Golok Vrindavan. Another very nice example is Vasudev, right? When Krishna was born, we all know in what circumstances and under what conditions Krishna was born. He was born when his parents were in the jail. They were put in a jail by Kansa, right? And Krishna was supposed to be the eighth son of Devaki, right? And Devaki and Vasudev, they were completely chained from top to bottom, and those were not ordinary chains. Those were huge, big fat chains, and their entire body was covered. Their bodily motion was very, very restricted at that time. Okay, and there were 11 or 12 gates, and on each gate there were, big and strong, like bodybuilder types, the guards were there, right? So this was the kind of situation in which Krishna was born. And when Krishna was born, Lord Vishnu appeared in front of Vasudev, and he said that you pick up this baby and you go to Vrindavan, right? And you go to Vrindavan, and there you go to the um, Nand Bhavan, where Nand Maharaj's wife has given birth to a daughter. You exchange your son with that daughter of Nand Maharaj and come back here. Now, just imagine that if we were in the situation of Vasudev, just put yourself in Vasudev's situation, right? Your entire body is chained, your movements are restricted, right? 11, bar bouncers like bodyguards are, in 11 gates, they are standing right outside. And on top of that, it was, raining heavily outside and river Yamuna was overflowing. Okay. I mean, to cross river Yamuna in that kind of situation was simply, it was beyond imagination for any sane living entity, right? So what would we have done in that situation? We would have just asked, Lord Vishnu, ki kya bol rahe hain aap? Are you saying just look at my situation, right? I mean, how am I supposed to do this? But just look at what Vasudev did. Without uttering a single word, without asking a single question, he simply tried to pick up the baby. Why? Because he was instructed by Lord himself. Okay. So that is Krishna consciousness. That is Vasudev consciousness. Okay. Whatever Krishna is saying, we are simply ready to do that. Okay. So Krishna actually just sees, that kind of consciousness, whether we are able to perform bhakti very nicely or not, whether we are able to do, all the things which have been prescribed in the Shastras or not very nicely, that becomes secondary for Krishna. Krishna only sees the intent and the honesty and dedication with which we are trying to do that. Okay. And then we all know what happened after that. As soon as Vasudev, picked up the baby, all the shackles were removed from his body. The bodyguards, the gatekeepers, they just went to sleep. The gates, fell apart. They were open. And when he reached river Yamuna, Yamuna actually gave the way to Vasudev, right? And Lord Ananta, on which Lord Vishnu, is kind of sleeping in a deep meditation, right? He was there to, cover the baby, and he became a kind of an umbrella for the baby, right? So Krishna will take care, basically. This is what is. So this is the mood of the people of Golok Vrindavan. That's what I'm trying to convey. So we have seen the abode of Krishna. We have seen the characteristics of that abode. Na tad bhasite suryo na shashanko na pavaka. And then we have also seen the characteristics of the inhabitants of Golok Vrindavan. Now the final question arises that okay, ये सब तो आपने बता दिया प्रभु जी, वहां जाएंगे कैसे, right? How to attain that supreme abode? So that secret we are going to see here. Okay. So what Krishna says here, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram ya prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra sanshayah. So this is the secret of going back home, back to Krishna. Whoever at the end of his life quits his body remembering me alone, okay, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. That means if we want to reach Krishna's abode, we have to quit our bodies thinking about Krishna. Okay. And trust me, it's easier said than done. It's not an easy task, mind you. If we are engaged in material activities throughout our lifetime, there is no chance in hell that we will be able to remember Krishna. We will remember about every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but we will not remember about Krishna. Okay? I can give you one example also, right? This is a real thing. Actually, I heard from one of my Siksha gurus actually. So, there was this group of young youth devotees who were on a yatra basically, and these brahmacharis were playing on the banks of a river, and suddenly one brahmachari, he thought that okay, let me go and have a dip in the river. He went into the river and actually started drowning. Okay. So luckily, what happened that some of the fellow brahmacharis, by mercy of Krishna, they took notice that okay, he is struggling there and he is about to drown. So one of them quickly jumped into the river and just swam and pulled him out. And finally, he was taken to the hospital, given the first aid and everything. And when he started feeling little better, all his friends were actually sitting around him. So they started joking to make the environment little light and hearty, right? So he said, "कि boss, तुम तो चले गए थे, and you have seen that, you have seen death, you have had a very almost near death experience, So we have learnt in the Bhagavad Gita that you should be thinking about Krishna at the time of death. Now tell me honestly, what were you thinking when you were drowning? What was going in your mind at that time?" So he said that I was thinking about a commercial of a toilet soap, basically. right? So just imagine how your mind can trick you, right? He was a brahmachari, and even at that time, some commercial was going in his head. Some song of that commercial was going in his head. Now you can imagine what would have been the fate of that brahmachari if he was not saved, right? So this is how difficult it is. The whole point is, right? It said in Bhagavad Gita, it is said that okay, you remember me at the time of death, and you will attain my form. Of this there is no doubt. But will we be able to do that? We will not be able to do this until and unless we practice Krishna consciousness day in and day out, right? We prepare for that final exam day in and day out. And that is the reason why we say that we should be chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So that this mantra is, we get so much attached to this mantra that, like inadvertently also we are continuously chanting. This is going within our heads. Okay. So Krishna consciousness is not about art of living. We don't teach art of living here. We teach the art of dying, basically, right? So that after you quit this body, you go straight back home, back to Krishna. No beating about the bush after that. Okay. So this is the secret of basically how you can, go back home, back to Krishna. But it's easier said than done. You will have to practice, and you will have to practice, and you will have to practice. Okay. I mean, people think about their families, their spouse, their kids, their property, their cars, their bank balance. Everything will come into your mind at the time of death. Okay, what will happen to these things once I leave? This is the kind of consciousness, and in that consciousness, people actually suffer a lot. It is said that people who are too attached to this material world, they suffer the pain of 70,000 scorpions biting at the same time. That is how painful death is for people who are attached to this material world and the material, relations and everything, right? But for devotees, it's just like falling asleep, as simple as falling asleep. So with that mood, I would like to end today's session. We have 15 minutes, so I would like to take some questions, some realizations. How did you like the session, and what are the key takeaways for you? All these things we can, just start discussing here. Anyone, if you have any questions, you can please go ahead now.
Nothing from my end, Prabhuji. Thank you.
You're saying something, Mataji?
I said nothing from my end, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
I want to say a few things here. First of all, that today's session was really, really beautiful. I could very much relate, and that's majorly my major takeaway today about the service, that we are here just for the service, which we can relate to in our day-to-day life as well. That we are busy in doing service, we just have to direct it to the right channel. I had one question. In majorly all the scriptures, right now we are reading Bhagavad Gita. In other scriptures also, I have seen that. I mean, I'm sorry if it is not a very beautiful question to ask, but
it's fine. Please go ahead.
So in most of the scriptures, it only talks about a man. However, what I understand, we, irrespective of the gender, are just a part of Krishna. Why does it not mention about us being a part of Krishna and just consider that a man? For example, why I picked it up was, so there was a line we were reading here which says that the mother is busy in servicing her son. The mother is also busy in servicing her daughter and her husband and her parents and everyone else in the family. So why
no,
is
this
it
is
like...
a very beautiful question, Mataji. I think, see, these are the questions which we must ask. Okay, these are the difficult questions which we must ask, and it's rightly so. Like any, sane woman would be having such questions in her mind. That why are we neglecting this? But then also, we should also consider the timelines or the chronology in which this purport has been written, Mataji. Okay, so Srila Prabhupada was here in, maybe he was writing this purport when he was 70 years old, no, in early 60s and towards 70s, 1960s, 1970s. Of that time it is there, right? And that at that time, like it's pretty evident, like you can go and you can see that it was a very male dominant society. Even if you look at the references that he's giving, that he always uses he, his, that kind of thing, right? Which was the common English language at that time. Okay, so it's not that like he's having some sort of a gender bias or something. Like what he's saying is applicable to all the human beings, okay, in general. But that was the way in which English was spoken at that particular time, okay, in 1960s and 70s. Okay, so we have to take that into consideration, and then we have to understand accordingly. Did I answer your question, Mataji?
Yes,
Prabhuji,
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhuji, if I would like to add
Yes.
something what
Yeah,
you said.
please, Mataji, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, Mataji, what you said, I know when I started reading Bhagavad Gita, even there are some lines which talks about, that the female and Sudra, they can only take the name of Bhagavan and we can get the moksha. We do not even have to go through all those difficulties which a man need to go through. So this kind of a thing it comes, and many people think that that it is demeaning the female, or it is lowering the female, or people are taking the female as inferior. This kind of a thing thoughts has come in mind even initially when I started. It has come in my mind also, but the more you'll understand this thing, Mataji, the more you'll go through this process, the more you'll understand. So a man and a woman both has a different role, so we cannot take the role of a man, and a man cannot take the role of a woman. When we talk about the equality in everything, even in spirituality, if you see Prabhupada, he was the kind of a person, he had also initiated a female matajis also, and gave the Gayatri mantra as well. In that time people used to not do that. He also used to quote that a female can also become a guruma. That kind of a mindset he had. So when he used to give those you know the what would I say, the discipline for a female who are mostly are serving the household, because that time most of the female, they used to be very much into their family service. They were taking care of their children, they were taking care of their husband. That was the mostly, even that talks about my grandmother's generation or my mother's generation. They are so much into serving others rather than anything else. So for them it was recommended, because from the morning to evening a man can go to office like a certain time, but think about a female who is waking up 4 o'clock in the morning and going to sleep at after everybody is going to sleep. For them the process was very limited. So that was the reason it always talk about, it is the response. When in our shastra it says when a man and woman get married, so they are binded by a spiritual thing. I'm not talking about the what is happening nowadays, but what is the actual meaning of a marriage. So when it happens, and that was the reason a female was so much busy in that generation, serving everybody else. I would not say service, the taking care of everybody else. They are the nourisher. The female role is a nourishment. So she is taking care of the mother-in-laws, her own parents, husband, children. That is so much of an effort. Only a homemaker can talk about it. So there's just so much of an effort in it. So what time she has to serve and sit in front of a Lord and keep on chanting his name. So that was the reason wherever in the scripture it'll go, it always says it's a man who should be this. It's a nice line of Prabhupada. He always mentioned that it's a man who should be the servant of Krishna, and the as Prabhuji just said that the wording was little tricky, given a time, because that time even my grandfather used to talk like that. So that is the way they throw it. That is not they are demeaning us when they are saying it's the man should be the servant of Krishna and a woman should be the servant of the man. It does not mean the servant means not the servant. It's not that you are becoming, it's not a negative connotation. when I'm talking that I am at service, in whenever you are writing a formal email, that time we always use that I'm always at your service, but that does not make me a servant, right? But because their way of talking was like that, so it and our time has changed and we started picking up everything with a very negative vibration because our mind has become like this. So that is just a generation, the language sometimes it creates a generation gap.
Yeah, it
It
creates a
happens
generation gap.
because of the generation gap. So he was not demeaning us, saying us servant. It was simply that the way a man should be fully focused at the service of spiritual thing or at the service of Krishna. Similarly, a woman's role is to at service of taking care of everybody else, because we do not have time to sitting in front of God and Krishna and keep chanting his name, because if we do that, then our household work will stop. People will not even find, we cannot even cook food for Krishna itself.
Yeah, correct.
So,
So yeah,
it is
yeah,
what
that's what.
you play it,
Correct.
you
So,
do your role, and give your mind to Krishna. That is
so
the
this is
easy.
what it is said, that
Yeah.
a man should be fully focused on Krishna's service, and the woman should be assisting him, right? Assisting him and the entire family, and try to bring them, together on the path of Krishna consciousness. Just by doing that, she will be going back home, back to Godhead. And we have seen so many instances, Mataji, in Srimad Bhagavatam, if you read, right, that the king generally, what in Srimad Bhagavatam we have seen about many kings who, towards the end of their life, they gave up their entire kingdom, went to forest with their wife. The wife was helping him to, practice bhakti very nicely. And when, the time came to quit the body, there were two planes which used to come from Vaikuntha. One took the wife and another one took the husband. At ISKCON, we do not discriminate between a man and a woman. We look everyone on the platform of a spirit soul. Okay, and what is the eternal constitutional position of a spirit soul? To render devotional service unto Krishna. That is what we are focusing here. And yes, please don't go by the wordings, because they have been written many years back, and that
The
is the way.
time
Yeah,
has changed, and the
correct.
definition of how men and women coexist, that also has changed now.
Exactly, correct. So
I
that is
was
how
worried to ask this difficult question, but
Yeah.
the way it was explained, it was so beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Prabhuji Mataji.
Yeah. And yeah, please, like, if all of you, like, since most of them are Matajis here in this call, I would again like to reiterate, Bhashmati Mataji is a very senior.
Prabhuji,
I think he is having some internet issue. Just give it some time.
Prabhuji, you are on mute.
I can see he has unmuted himself, but still we are not able to hear him. I'm not sure. Is anybody has anything else to share or any question?
Mataji.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Tell me.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. I have a question.
Yes, please.
Is there any other way other than chanting to go back to Krishna?
Okay, that's your question. All right.
Yeah.
Give me an example. How do you go to your school? How many ways do you have?
By school bus.
School bus, right? Do you have any other way to go to your school? What is your most feasible way and easiest way? Tell me that.
Easiest way is by going school bus only.
Right. And when you go to go by school bus, you have a friends inside, right? You enjoy going by school bus, right?
Yeah.
Right. So now tell me how you are asking if there is any other way without chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra to go back to your original place. So, as our Acharya has already said, this is the only way and this is the easiest way. There might be some other ways. How old are you, by the way?
10 years.
So in 10 years, so the more you will grow, the more you will understand the spiritual path. But the all of the way, easiest path is the chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. If you chant and do your work with wholeheartedly and thinking about Krishna whole day, suppose you're going to school, you're thinking Krishna is sitting beside you. You're thinking about it, right?
Yeah.
So you're imagining him. So you are actually chanting inside you. You are taking his name, you're thinking about him. So you're imagining him, right? You're taking his name. So when you are doing that, so that is the easiest or just the way you are going to your school by bus, that is your easiest way. Similarly, going back to Golak Vrindavan, the easiest way is to chanting. We call our friends, right? We talk to them over phone. So can you call Krishna? No, right? So you need something to call Krishna, right? So chanting when in the morning or evening, whenever you are able to do, you are taking Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. You are actually taking his name, remembering him, and you are basically talking. He is talking to you. So isn't it easiest way? What do you think?
Yeah, it's the easiest way.
Yeah. So if you think, no, I'll grow up, I'll leave my home, I'll do sadhana, I'll become a sannyasi, do you really think it is the easiest way? No, na?
No.
Yes. So you do your study very well. And whenever you are studying, you always think I'm doing it for my friend who is Krishna. Always remember that. Take his name, do your best at your study, at your work when you grow up. And that's how you can please him. Be a good human being. He put you inside a human body, right? So be a good human being by following what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Follow his words, live by his word, and take his name. Isn't it easy?
Yeah, Mataji, it's easy.
Yeah, follow it. Hare Krishna. Any other question? Anybody has any other question? Otherwise, we can wrap this call for this weekend. Am I audible?
Yes, Mataji, you're audible. No questions from my end. Thank you.
Oh,
Hare
okay.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. If we do not have any other question, then we will wrap this call for today because Prabhuji has left maybe some internet issue or something. I'm not sure. Prabhuji, am I audible to you? Hare Krishna. He's still not audible. Then we can wrap this call here and we'll again meet another beautiful Saturday, which is next weekend. Hare Krishna, everybody.